Welcome to Best Boys, a film podcast, an amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringiest bingers. I'm your host, JP, and I'm joined by my brother, professional Hollywood videographer,
Kory with a story. And we're here. We're back. The Oscars are over. We had to go so far back into the trenches to pull out some long, slow burns.
Yeah. We needed to simmer it down after all this heat. We did not put out an episode since our last was the bonus episode with the Oscar predictions, many of which Kory, you were correct on. We're not going to go through them all one by one. You can go see the results for yourself and watch that episode. But a lot of my picks were upset, like Power of the Dog. But
I was shocked too, though.
My heart was there. And then I'm not even gonna touch on the Will Smith thing that everybody in the world has given their take on. So I don't think we have anything to add that has not already been added.
Agreed.
So we've been talking. If you haven't figured it out, I think I did post somewhere, but we have moved to an every other week format, bi-weekly format. Is that what that is? Bi-weekly?
Or bi-monthly. 2 times a month.
Yeah, bi-monthly. That's it. And we may, we're still probably going to, as we want to do things, there may be weekly things, and we're Boom Fest and Halloween, for October we'll still do. But I think this will give us a chance to get a little bit of a breather, stack some ammo, so we can, record extra episodes. And in case where one of us ever have to be off, we can still have an episode ready and things like that. So one thing that we've been talking about is how we wanted to do more classics. Obviously we did Kurosawa a few weeks ago, a few episodes ago. And we kind of wanted to stick to that and give us more of a foundation. And I know we got some new things coming up with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then after that I really want to do The Northman and Robert Eggers. And but before we do that, we are going to get to what many in film buffs call an essential director, much like Kurosawa. Also not American, non-English speaking, in Andrei Tarkovsky. So Kory, I ask you, what do you know about Mr. Tarkovsky? What did you know about him?
All I knew, to be frank, was nothing other than people saying, people referencing him, like in my film buddy groups and stuff, or online, or like people would just be like, "Oh, he wants to be the next Tarkovsky," when referencing something, and I never knew what that meant. Until now, and I get it. It makes so much more sense. So many comments that I've heard now make so much more sense in reference to the people that they were about. But
have you heard?
This is all new to me, though.
Have you heard of any of the titles? These titles, not in his filmography.
Stalker, but just like offhand, not like anything that I had looked into before.
That is interesting. I have personally I've heard that he was, an essential filmmaker, like I said. The films that I was familiar with were Andrei Rublev, Solaris, and Stalker. Solaris I knew was supposed to be his response to 2001: A Space Odyssey. He's famously known for being a critic of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Pretty much boiling it down, I can pull up the quote. I don't have it in front of me, but it boiled down to calling it fake deep. That it was used a lot of over the top visual techniques, but that it ultimately had an empty meaning. And so Solaris was supposed to be a kind of response. At least I don't know. That's what people consider. And in film history, that's kind of what it gets associated with 2001: A Space Odyssey. And if you do watch the two films side by side, they are both science fiction, but they are incredibly different in scope and in content. Having now watched two of his films, Andrei Tarkovsky's style is very distinct, but it's a very minimal. I think minimalist is probably the word that comes to mind for me watching both of these films. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say it's all in the dialogue. It's all the sets don't matter. The character like visuals don't really matter. It's all just in like the discussion of the overarching like tone and
I wouldn't say
themes.
they don't matter because like the sets set the mood. Like I think they're really good sets usually. There might be lower budget compared to whatever, but I do like the sets on these movies, especially Stalker. But I do like
Stalker, I genuinely enjoy.
the space station though. I think looks cool in Solaris. The room with all the mirrors that he's sleeping in, I think is really cool. I do like some of the. I do like the sets. I like I like the way these movies look. But as far as they're very still, they're very slow moving. Like the characters are moving slow. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of action. It's just talking and different sets and things happening. Solaris in particular has very much a feeling of like a play almost to me. It's very visual. Don't and like I think that is the thing that I think at first you could write it off, and I may have as I struggled to. Solaris is a challenge. I think they both are challenging films in different ways, but also the same way in that they are like painfully slow.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't even necessarily mean that in a bad way. It's just it's trying to. Um, I think I read a quote that was like, Solaris is meant to be. It isn't meant to be entertaining. It's like meant to be an experience. You know, you're supposed to feel this. Actually, I think it was about
Hmm.
Stalker. You're supposed to like feel the moment like it's a real moment with the characters, and like real
Yeah.
moments don't necessarily happen. You know, fast cuts and heavily edited and move with a lot of energy. Um, and I can understand that. And I think that there are filmmakers. David Lynch comes to mind, who's a really good use of when to just hold on things to like a creepy length of time. These movies are filled with that. Like it gets weird. It's holding so long. There is in Stalker. I don't want to jump back and forth too much, but there in Stalker there is a 5 minute and 43 second shot of towards the end of the film when they're outside the zone or outside the room, and it's really cool, and like that one is put together really well. But that's just an example of just these long takes, um, and just heavily in dialogue driven films. A lot
Hmm.
of the devil is in the details and the dialogue. The sets just are the sets, and
Yeah.
the story is told really within the dialogue.
And that's kind of what I was getting at by the sets don't really matter because while the sets are
Yeah,
very
that makes
beautiful
sense.
for what they are, they're very repetitive and it's just there to kind of loosely get you in the world, but it's all just in the conversations and like I feel like you could close your eyes and listen to this like an audiobook and imagine your own like world or whatever to it, and it would just be uh I feel like it would do just as like impactful.
Yeah, I feel like I would have been able to almost. I wish that. not wish, but in English, I think that I would have been able to connect to it easier, and I know that's because of
Mhm.
just my own attention span or whatever. But I think being able to like just close my eyes for a moment and still be in this world in like my imagination. But like there is so much in the like I think the camera work is good. Like I think and I mean the cinematography I think is good in these movies. It's just simple and minimal. And as someone was in my experience filming things or putting things together, I do really like minimal stuff that looks cool. And the Stalker is full of that, but Solaris is as well. And I do really appreciate that. So with Solaris, what did you let's talk about Solaris in particular. Um, what how did you feel about how Solaris kind of opens? That there is like a prologue kind of that sets up everything, and then like there's a setup to the movie with there's a lot happening, almost into a disorienting pace.
Mm.
Not that it's really fast, but you're just getting a lot of information and you're getting a lot of characters, and you don't know who's important and who's not. And then it kind of
Mhm.
all falls away to just the story about our main character. Um, and but yeah, how'd you feel
Yeah,
about that?
I'm not gonna lie, and I mentioned this to you on Easter. I for sure didn't even know what Solaris was until he got to the space station. It's like something that's like, because it's like a slow opening, but at the same time, like you were saying, there's just a lot happening. It's like a lot of setup, but it's trying to like read it all, and then while also trying to connect the faces and everything. I just kind of got lost in it. Like, and with Burton, didn't realize that that was the old man version of Burton until like halfway through they're watching the tape. Just as by the way he was introduced, I feel like it was just kind of like, all right, now sit down and watch this, and then it just kind of went. And
Mm-hmm.
but by the time like but once I realized like Burton was that, and but I still thought that they were on Earth, and Solaris was just like a project examining like a certain part of the ocean on Earth, until we get to the space station thing where like that whole transition where he's like in the dark with his like eye, just his lone eye coming, and then it's the slow zoom in into the spaceship. It was like, oh, this is a whole nother planet. This is a wow.
Yeah,
Like
I figured out in the beginning that there is a colony, and that like the Henry Burton guy was on this space station and experienced something and was telling them what he experienced. Like I did follow that, but then it was just it was introducing Chris Kelvin and like because we were also getting bits of him. He was like watching TV with his like
mm,
family or something, and I just
yeah.
like didn't understand who he was or what his place in the story was, and it slowly became about him and not about Burton. Um,
Mm.
and so like I think that was like disorienting to me. But then I understood that like the Burton story was just the backdrop for you to understand what's going on. There's something weird going on at
Mm.
the space station for this colony, this planet Solaris. And it's interesting. I think it's a kind of modern way to start the movie. I thought,
Mm.
like different, weird, but definitely kind of a modern way to do it. And then once we get to the ship is when it kind of the movie slows down. Um,
Oh yeah, it hits the brakes as hard as it can.
like we're just slowly finding information, and it's weird on the space station, and everybody on the space station, the few people left are weird. The guy that we were supposed to meet, our like buddy that we knew before, killed himself, and the other two guys are just weird and don't seem to like really think much of it. Just yeah, he,
Yeah, they never like explicitly go into it. Even at the end when he's like having the fever and all delirious, there he's just like, "You never did tell me how he did it," and he's like, "No, we'll talk about it later."
it's
And
not
it's like it
important.
wasn't
It's like
fear.
not
It was,
important.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it must be something similar to what's going on with him, because he almost seemed like the more he was like solidifying the idea of staying and living with Hari, the more he started to get like a fever and go crazy and start to die. And I'm wondering if it was a similar thing to that, or what. I don't know. There was a lot happens, but it's stretched out in such a wide span of time that it's like
It
it's
feels
like
like,
pockets.
yeah, I think that's what you kind of get a feel of the isolation because of the
Mhm.
time. Because of the sets being like there's only like 3 or 4 sets once you're on
Yeah,
the ship, the space station. It is kind of like it drives you crazy a little bit. And so I
because it's like
think,
the loss of time you get whenever you're like indoors away from windows and stuff for a while. That's like
yeah,
almost
kind of
how it
like when you
feels.
go to the movie theater.
Yeah.
And it's weird to walk back outside again and it's like, oh, it's like dark now or something. Um and yeah, so I think the main part of the film, just to go over the story, and then we can break down other things, is he's staying on the space station. Things are weird already, and then his wife appears, who killed herself years ago. And we find out that something on the planet Solaris makes these manifestations from your psyche into reality, and they call them visitors. And so the at first Calvin doesn't know what the fuck to do about it, and he just like launches one into a space. It launches her into a spacecraft, into like a escape pod into space. It just like yeets her, and because he just freaks out. But then she comes back, or like another one forms, and then this one he's kind of much more attached to, as she like kind of demonstrates that what she knows and what she doesn't know, and there's kind of a lot of philosophical questions about what makes somebody real and what makes you you, and existence and existential shit and whatnot. And I think that's both of these movies are extremely philosophical, even though that they feel kind of simple. They're big. These ideas are very big.
Mhm. Yeah, the I can't remember. I was trying to think while you were saying that what movie specifically it reminds me of, like what does it mean to be human? Uh but I wanted to say not the Matrix, but something where like, it's robots, but they think that they're people until they realize that they're robots.
Like
Um
Westworld.
yeah, I was gonna say Westworld, but I thought there was something else that would be more applicable.
There's a Rick and Morty
But yeah,
episode.
maybe that, but I don't know.
There's,
But
I
either
think, I
way,
think, I think it's a trope that's come up in
yeah,
sci-fi.
it's a become a, yeah, for sure. But the way that this one does it is like, I mean, you're pretty aware from the start that they're obviously not like the real person. At least from the viewer's perspective, I feel. But you really settle into just the whole conversation of it. I definitely got in, like, was very interested in just like them, like discussing of whether she is real or not towards like the last like
Yeah,
45 minutes of the film. Um,
I think
I
that's
think
what's
it
supposed
played
to
very
be really
well.
what drives you is this conversation about, is she is she real? Is she really
Because
Hari?
she feels she can interact with things. She has her own thoughts, and by the end of it, she's no longer needs to be like directly attached to him. She's able to have distance between the two, and
The Matrix is telling me that the steak is juicy and red.
then yeah, I mean that's true.
It's kind of like that.
Uh,
Well, it's like he's
yeah,
like the Calvin kind of accepts, like, at this point I don't care. Like, maybe I should just stay here and have my wife back. A facsimile, at least, of my wife. And I think at one point she gets really, she gets kind of freaked out of being reminded that she's not real and whatever, and she tries to kill
mhm.
herself. And yeah, it's kind of
Well,
like that. That's how
it
the
parries
movie.
like. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk
Go,
over.
no, go ahead.
I was saying it parries like the how she killed herself in the past. Um, like at the end of the day, she like
Yeah.
not for the same reasons necessarily, because in this one is killing herself to let him go, versus in the other one it was seemed to be because he was emotionally distant, at least what I picked up. But either way, he can't have her. She's meant to die in the end.
Yeah, she tries to kill herself, and then in the end, she like asks to be permanently destroyed, and then she doesn't come back. And then Calvin comes back to Earth. He has a bunch of visions of his family. His mother is a young woman. There's a lot of like I don't. I should have written it down of what I've read. But what did you think about all the like reflections on like who he is and his family and his history, and like we have a lot of visions of Calvin's past, his relationship with his
Uh,
father.
yeah. The honestly, it was kind of hard to take in. Like it was a lot of just kind of like, because sorry, for a bit of the movie, I thought that the flashback to the younger version of his mom was referencing an ex-wife or something, and then that got me all like tripped up until like towards the end, um, where it could have started making a little bit more sense of things. But yeah, I don't know. I had a hard time, really like getting it, if that makes sense.
No, I think the language barrier is there on this one. I don't know why, but it is. And it took me a little bit to figure out stuff in both of these movies. But once you do, I think that it's actually like I kind of would like to watch this one again. Solaris in particular,
Mhm.
both of these movies I'd like to see again, but Solaris in particular, I think I'd have a much better appreciation for it this time.
Yeah, I agree. I think I now that I know what I'm supposed like I know what things are supposed to be, I can understand how they're meshing in with each other, rather than like I had a really hard time with just like identifying people with with the conversations in this
Um,
one.
what did you think about the twist ending?
The oh, I don't know. Do you think that he never left the ship and it was just
I
all
think
he
it's
is
supposed
on
to
Solaris
imply
now?
that yeah, he was on an island on the surface of Solaris, and he did
Because
not
they
go
said
back to
that.
Earth.
Yeah, well, they said that before they sent him back, they said that islands were starting to form after they did like the annihilation thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I guess that was the next step,
Unlike
was
the
to
final
give him
shot, it like zooms out where he's at, and you
yeah,
see that he's
yeah,
on an island. So I think it's supposed to
on
imply
Solaris.
that he's on Solaris. But yeah, that is. I thought that was a really good ending. For how like slow it kind of got at times. I think it really did pick up in the last act. That's when you
Yeah, I agree.
more the like emotional shit. And I think it's like it felt slow, but then when I think about it now, it doesn't seem like it was that slow. But I think it's because I'm just focusing on the story bits of it, versus how much it's like the Calvin staring at the ceiling, or staring, at Hari, or Hari staring into a mirror or whatever,
Him staring out the window.
out the window, and it's a lot of staring. But I think that I understand the importance of this movie, and I understand that I see it as a separate side of a coin to 2001: A Space Odyssey. I see hell of a lot of influence from this movie on stuff on like A24 sci-fi, like
Mhm.
your Ex Machinas, and your like Ex Machina probably is a big one, or the newer Blade Runner, 2049. Like that has more action, but like there's so much, like slower, like
Mhm.
introspective thoughts about like what does it mean to be a human being, or whatnot. I see a lot of this DNA in those kinds of like indie styled sci-fi movies. Um, do you see that as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's when you said Ex Machina for sure. The just like the and Blade Runner for that matter, but the I don't know, it just because those movies are like long as well, but like they I guess they do it in a different way because they have the action moments to break it up. But
It's
it's
like
like
modern. They can do more
yeah,
now.
um, but I love those slow parts of those movies. I've grown to love like the quietness in between all of that like big stuff, and pulling from this is because there are moments of this where yeah that's long, but like I'm hooked. Like one of the final conversations like with Hari and Kelvin, where it's just them talking back and forth in the room, is like the one of the most gripping parts of the whole thing. Um, and I like that it has like trickled into what we get now, where it can be added in with other things and created to make something that's like has this awesome peaks and valley that has become like the modern slow burn, I guess.
Oh, I'm just remembering more of these sci-fi movies that remind me of it. Under the Skin is an A24 sci-fi movie. High Life, also Claire Denis, is definitely got this kind of a pace and vibe. I think now the more this is definitely one of those movies where you're challenged, but then once you've finished it and you sit with it, you just appreciate it so much more. Both of these movies, they are, but this don't take them lightly. Don't just be like, oh, I'm gonna just put this on and have some fun, because you are gonna not watch the movie. It is tedious. It can be tedious if you're not ready for it. And like I said, I'm very excited to watch it again, but I like at the same time was incredibly bored at times during this experience. Like I think I have to be honest with the audience. But
Oh, for
I
sure.
I appreciate it so much, and I really do enjoy. I'm glad I've seen it, and I want to see it again. And I think that it's because it is a great film, and I can see the influence and all that. It's just it is a challenge. Being slow, being in another language, um, and just yeah, just the that's really about it. I don't really have much to critique of it because it's done well. Um, some of the like sets look really low, like a little bit low budget, but I think I kind of like that. It seems like a more of a used sci-fi. It's not clean. It's
Mhm.
and I can see that kind of influence on Star Wars, which comes out just a few years later. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
is there anything else
I
you want to say about Solaris?
yeah, I was gonna say oh no, hope we don't lose it.
Is it because it's Star Wars?
The no, it was before you talked about the sets. Oh nuts. Um,
The challenge. It's tedious, but it's good.
Oh yes, okay, yes. So in agreeing with what you're saying about this is hard to judge because it is. I feel like this is exactly what it was meant to be, and when something turns out the exact way it was intended to be, regardless of whether I fully like it or not, it is good, and it's very hard for something to be like because this.
And it's like
And I
viewing it as a piece of art and not as a piece of
exactly,
entertainment. And
exactly, yes, exactly.
and I think that is a big thing with the film as an art form. Is entertainment is important, and some of the best films ever are incredibly entertaining, and that is they're linked, but this is like something else. It's deeper than that, but it's also minimal, and is just not gonna you're not gonna walk away from it with the same kinds of feelings. So
Agree.
what do you have anything else you want to add about Solaris before we give this boy a big old score?
Didn't really comment on the cinematography, but it is very beautiful. I
I
love
think
all the
is
color.
sorry.
Um, I was gonna say I love just the close-ups of like this, like the little seaweed type things in the water and all like that stuff.
He shoots
I love
water a
that
lot
imagery.
in both the movies. Tons of
Yeah, I
shots
love
of
the
water.
imagery.
Like shit floating
Um,
in water, like drifting.
mhm.
Just long shots. I, yeah, the cinematography. I think it's minimal, but it's very, very good. Very, very good. And some of that as a layman, obviously, but I really, really like the way that these movies are shot.
Mm.
And
A
and
lot
you
of them
know that
feel like
I have a bias towards I think minimalist stuff, and this is definitely an approach that I've tried to take to projects of my own, and it's cool to see it executed at a high level, but also being keeping in mind that that's not always accessible to everybody.
I just I love how this, like, a lot of these shots are just like modern looking, like the way that they're lit and composed and stuff, and they're just so ahead of its time, and just the way that things were being lit at the time. Where it feels, even the set, like a lot of the stages don't feel like stages. Like some of them obviously do, but just like I was pulling up a couple clips here to for reference, and the one where they're looking out the window, where it's him and Snout looking out the window, and it's all daylight, and only the light that's coming in is from the windows, instead of having
Yeah,
that
I
like
keep pulling
over
that
the top
setup
ceiling
too.
light.
I have a
Uh,
different shot up, but it is of that room where the lights come,
yeah.
like it's daylight coming in of the circle windows.
Mm.
Yeah, super cool. But it's also like really like beat up in there, like it's the
Mm.
stations needs work. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
immersive but simple.
I just love how they shape light, like in this. Nothing's flat. Nothing has that like older movie flatness to it. Like they really did a lot with what like were given for how minimal the number of sets
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
I do with the lighting.
Yes. Yeah, less is more, big time with these.
Yeah, for these for sure. I would say even with the next one, because it's about the same with the number of sets and stuff. It just feels way grander because of the openness of being outside.
Yeah, yeah. Is I mean, like I feel like that. I know I want to talk more about the philosophical stuff in Stalker, but there's so much to talk about and unpack with this. Like I said, with like what makes a person, etc. But you could talk about it forever. I think, and I do. It really, both of these movies really remind me of really like old pulpy science fiction stories. Like
Mhm.
not like a full long novel, like epic novel like Dune, but just like a concise story that you would read, or like a Twilight Zone episode, but just like done fucking really, really well, like written really well, and
Mhm.
into a feature length. And I think that's why I like it. It just feels like a pulpy sci-fi Twilight Zone thing, but just done
Mhm.
at the highest level, at an artful level, and
Yeah, yeah.
I really really appreciate that, and it kind of reminds me why I like that style in modern sci-fi as well. I like to have
It's Twilight
fun
Zone's a
and
good.
I like entertaining stuff, but I like that this shit
Mhm.
exists too.
Oh, for sure. I was gonna say Twilight Zone is definitely like, I agree with that comparison. This definitely feels
We
like a 3 hour version of an
we watch
episode.
the Outer Limits on a basic cable channel all the time, and it feels like these stories, like they just
Mhm.
remind me of plots from that, but at the same time, it's just so much deeper because those are kind of shallow and kind of it's a little bit bad. It's bad acting. It's low budget. But this is just I don't know. It's done so well. It's really cool. What do you? I think we got to score this pup. What are you scoring it?
Um, I'm sitting at a 3.5.
Whoa.
Just because of the score I'm giving Stalker. I really like this, and I understand what it did for everything.
Because
However, I
some
was bored.
people just keep in mind some people say that these are some of the best
This is a perfect
movies.
film. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I just I don't know. I think I it was very challenging for me, but I didn't get it as like, challenging in a good way at times. Um,
Yeah.
but it's but the things I do love about it, like I really like, and I think they're done very well. Um, but I think it's just a little too hard to follow and slow for me. Yeah.
Well, I gave so I like I said at first I would have agreed with I would have agreed with you, but then like the more I sat with it and more I thought about it and the more it stuck with me and the more I just appreciated it more and more. Um
Mm.
it kind of rose from that. And I have it at 4.5 here, but I'm torn between a 4.5 and a 4. Um but I think that it's a super important movie, and I want to see it again, and I think that alone, I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Like how you were describing that is how I felt coming off of Drive My Car, and I remember I liked that a little
Drive My
bit more
Car is
than you.
really good, really good.
Uh,
I think that Drive My Car has risen in my since watching it. I think I like
yeah,
this and Drive My Car
stuck in my head.
are similar in the vibe
Mm.
to me, like because they're long, they're challenging, but then there's like a lot, they leave you with so much, um and then I think about them and how pretty they were and whatever, and and yeah. So I think my Drive My Car, if we revisited it, I'd give it a, I don't remember what I gave it before. I think I gave it a 4, right?
Yeah, I think you gave it a 4, and I gave it either a 4.5 or a 5. I think I gave it a 4.5 though.
All right, so all right, you sure you're sticking at 3.5? Are you sure?
I think
Can
I
I
th-
can
it's
I
just
can I can I sell you on a
well, it's
four
just where I
somehow?
have it's just
What?
where I have Stalker
Well,
because I
yeah,
like
you can
Stalker a lot
still, but
more.
you can still like one more than the other and have them at the same score. Because like, oh, you would have gave one like a 4.2 and one a 4.0 or whatever, just like you rounded. I don't know. I think Stalker is better. Um,
Yeah, I
and
think it's a more perfect version of what this is
I think
like going.
Stalker is. I mean, I don't want to spoil, but if I give this one 4.5 and the other one I like
Yeah, that's what
better,
I was like. I was very confused when you said 4.5. I was like, really for Stalker?
Stalker,
um,
yeah, Stalker, I don't have many complaints about.
all right, I think I'm sticking with my guns. I'm sticking with my
Wow,
guns
wow, spicy.
only because of what of my how I feel about Stalker.
Well, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair, but I won't
No,
fight you.
yeah, I'll explain when now that we're transitioning into
But
Stalker.
Stalker can't be above a 4. Is what you're trying to say? It can't be
No,
above it.
I'm not saying that at all.
Oh, okay. With 3.5. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm.
Well,
There's a
that's
reason.
it. I'm not fighting you. You got what you got. You've made it. Okay.
Here we
So
are.
let's then move on to Stalker. Stalker is a post-apocalyptic film about a guy who is called a stalker. And stalkers escort people. They're like kind of like guides, and they escort people through this weird area called the mysterious area called the zone, where weird shit happens. Unexplained phenomena, and it is legend has it that there is a place inside the zone called the room, where if you go inside of it, your every desire will be fulfilled. Right off the bat, love the fucking broad, like vague, broad, um, a plot. And, but then the setting is so real. Like the post-apocalyptic setting is, especially for seeing it done at this time, I really really like. And I think seeing it done in a more like vague, bro. I've seen movies try to do this with the post-apocalyptic thing, like make it this epic, kind of allegorical thing, but it doesn't really work, or it just kind of falls flat. But this kind of really, really leans into it. Um, and there's a lot to be said. This movie's ton of metaphor and allegory and etc. Um, for um, for all types of things, and we will go into them specifically. But Man, this movie, the longer I watched it, the more I liked it. And like, even though it was getting longer and slower, if that makes sense, like less was happening. The whole last hour of the movie, are they almost in the same place, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I was gonna say the middle of it is where I was falling like for a bit, but as soon as they get to the room, like the building outside the room or whatever, or the room outside the room,
Yeah, yeah, the room outside the room.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's man, does it just get cool again? It just gets so awesome. I mean, I was gonna say, and I was waiting until this have to say this, but I feel like both of these movies are. It's 2 hours of build up for 45 minutes of what is the meaning of life. Uh, but it's like cool
Yeah.
the way it does that.
One, like you keep
Like,
so there's the faith is, I think, a definitely a
oh,
theme,
huge in this.
because
Yeah.
what the stalker is like, you have to have faith in me. You have to do everything I'm telling you to do if you want to live. It kind of reminds me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, like all like the tests that they have to go through to get to the
Mhm.
next phase of and like they're all faith based tests,
Mhm.
like walking out into the invisible bridge or whatever. And these kind of remind me of that, but nothing is happening. Like they
Yeah.
keep doing things, and the guy's yelling at them like, "No, don't do that! Oh, you're fucking dead, dude! You're dead, bro!" And then just like nothing happens. Or like maybe something
Yeah.
weird will happen a little bit, but like nobody's hurt or not. They continue onward. And
Yeah,
I'm
the
like,
wildest thing that happens is when the 2 guys get separated from the one guy and they both end up at the same spot. But, like,
yes,
that's
yes.
the craziest thing that happens.
That is the crazy. So like nothing, like that's the craziest thing that happens, and you almost start to like doubt. You start to lose faith in all of this shit. Like this is just legend, and these stalkers are just doing this to like make money, and it's all like a grift. Um, and it's cool, but it doesn't really amount to anything. But then like they get there, and there is some tension, like tense moments. When they're in the tunnel, and he's like, they're drawing straws to see who goes first, because like he doesn't know what could happen. You could just walk into a death trap. Everywhere could be a trap. And and there's like, I love all of like the water and the trickling
Mhm.
water and whatnot. There is like tense moments, so I do enjoy the journey, there is a moment in like around the middle part where I'm like, nothing is fucking happening. Like he keeps saying shit
Yeah.
is gonna happen, but nothing happens. And it's like boy who cried wolf, and I'm like, then I start to understand like the movie's doing this on purpose to make for all of us to doubt the zone and to doubt the
Mhm.
room, and then we confront it in the end, and we're still not sure what the fuck is going on, but like these people like possessed. Like the one guy starts getting weird when the guy who goes
Mhm.
in first, and he puts on the crown of thorns, and it starts getting way more metaphorical. And then the other guy's got a bomb, um and he's like, I'm just gonna blow this shit up, I'm not going in there. Like we just can't let it fall into the wrong hands. um
Yeah, like if evil can get it, no one can have it.
and they beat the shit out of the stalker. They're just like, you fucking asshole, like you're just here to fuck us and kill us or whatever.
Take our money.
And yeah. And the stalker's like, no, I really believe this shit. It's real. It's real. And oh my god! So the whole story, the whole journey, he's referencing. At first, he's talking about porcupines, and I'm like, why does he keep talking about the animals? Like, oh, the porcupines, they fucked everything up over here, or they ate all the food or whatever. And I'm like, he says it in plural, and then after that, it's only singular. Porcupine did this. Porcupine did that. And then we find out that Porcupine is another stalker that came through before him.
Yeah.
And then don't we find out that Porcupine is his brother?
Oh, I didn't
I
get that.
think.
I thought Porcupine he's a guy who he was a stalker that went in the room and then was not allowed to return, and I thought, or
I think
uh,
Porcupine
kill
is our
himself.
boy's brother, and he went in there and he killed himself when he came out. and then like our stalker tells our two guys, the writer and the professor, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe we don't want to go in there because he killed himself. Like, why did what happened to make him do that? Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, talking the whole time about like, was it because he wanted something else, but instead he got money, um, and or some shit like that. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. Oh, I guess all right. I'm looking at the wiki. Porcupine is not. The brother is not Porcupine. The brother, the Porcupine is a stalker who led his brother to the zone, and then after his brother went into the room, he killed himself.
Gotcha. All right, that makes more sense.
And so it becomes like this little like riddle at the end that they like kind of figure out about Porcupine, like his motives of for wealth, rather than bring his brother back from the dead, and then Porcupine committed suicide. Oh wait, no, Porcupine is maybe the brother. I don't know. It's confusing. But they're both dead. The brother and Porcupine. Um,
But yeah, the that whole thing, the last 45 minutes, well, not 45, it's like the that last half hour before they get out of the zone. Um, they goes into after all of the faith stuff, and then it goes into like this, like almost a what is my purpose? Because it's like without because the stalker goes off on, if there's no zone, then I have nothing. This is everything, and then it goes down the which was similar to Solaris of just like what is the meaning of life type feeling. At least what I picked up
well, and
from
like
it.
I think it's also like one of the big themes is like the nature of human desire. Um,
Yeah, like
and
I,
like
everyone.
what like how are our wants fulfilled, and what would that do to us if it was?
Yeah.
Um, and like what our innermost desire may be is not what we think. Um,
Mm.
or that we might be better off not, get achieving it. Um, I think that is all really interesting. There's a lot of reminds me of the Cold War or like Chernobyl
Mm.
disaster, those kinds of things. It's
Yeah,
really
definitely.
it's interesting thinking about it in a Soviet perspective. When this movie came out, when it was made.
Yeah, it very much feels like because the way everything is just kind of like run down and shitty. Um, there's definitely is like portraying like the world that we are in right now, which is most likely a reflection of the world, and through the eyes of the director, is in a like an apocalyptic like wasteland. Um, and when the zone being so colorful and lush and beautiful, um, I guess is just like I wonder if it's just like a not a grass is always greener, but just like a there's always a paradise out there that someone is like hoping to get or hoping to go to. We're all looking for our own Garden of Eden. Uh,
Yeah. I was thinking about how they just aesthetically. I know I don't. I guess we're jumping around here, but I think about how kind of aesthetically it's like that nature's kind of taking back over
mm,
um, society or whatever civilization,
yeah.
and kind of like a vaporwave kind of vibe that people used to post about like 5 years ago, or I guess like 8 years ago now.
Mm,
Um, and I think that's really cool. I think it's that's why visually this it really holds up, even though they're kind of just shooting around a bunch of abandoned things. Oh, the shot of the when they're at the first like break point and they are around a bunch of telephone poles and they look like crosses. They look like crucifixes,
it looked
Um,
like the scene from Evangelion.
and it reminded me of Evangelion, and I'm like, wow, so many anime have done this, and Tarkovsky did it 20 years earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty rad. I love that. Uh, as soon as I saw it, it was just like, oh man, that is you see that. I feel like you just see that kind of specifically with the polls and so much stuff. Um, I love that. I love like religious iconography just like slapped in there. Not directly legitimately across, but just like how it is with the telephone poles and stuff. Like I don't know why, but I love that aesthetic of things.
I brought this up earlier, but apparently a visual technique that Tarkovsky employs in a bunch of his films is paint in water. And he puts the paint in the water and it kind of just films like how, because it's like if it's oil paint, it does not
Mhm.
mix. It kind of floats. The color will float and swirl around in the water, and you kind of see it
Mhm.
slowly. And Stalker, he does it a lot with black paint. It looks like oil. And it just like looks
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
the like they're falling around in this grimy, dirty ass water, and there's just like lightning or light bulbs floating in it, and like there's like industrial trash, mostly nothing really like not just garbage. It's like
Mm.
certain kinds of items. I don't know. It's a vibe. Definitely a vibe. And I really like it. I was able to stick with this movie throughout. Like I was not as much as I recognize the challenge and like how it was still long takes and whatnot. Um, I think this movie is was visually more interesting, and just like more I think my kind of story. Um, that I just really I like post-apocalyptic stuff a lot. I like deep questions of life and fulfillment and reflection and I feel like I didn't even fully understand. I want to just watch the ending part again. We
Mm.
forgot to mention that the visual motif in the first I want to say 45 minutes is just gold. In a certain
Mm.
area of once they get into the zone, it is green and beautiful. But when they are not in the zone, it is gold. The whole
Yeah,
screen is
it's
like
like
colored gold.
yeah,
Um,
it's like grayscale but tinted gold, like
yeah,
forever.
he does it in Solaris as well with flashbacks. They are tinted
Yeah,
blue.
yeah, I was about to
Um,
say, yeah.
and I really liked that. I thought that was like kind of ahead of its time. In Solaris, I wanted to mention that. But yeah, this too, I really thought that was really something minimal but visually striking and to have this kind of contrast with. And then once
Yeah,
we were in that later in the film, they when they came back to like a flashback or they went back to wherever they started and it was gold again and you're just like oh this is just how this area is. That's just the vibe of this place and it was almost like the zone was I don't know if
mm.
it's more what it's trying to say that even though it's more run down that it's more colorful and beautiful.
I love that transition it goes from the gold to when we get our first full color shot because it holds on the stalker sleeping for like it feels like a good couple minutes and then it's just bam, we'll cut to that wide in
Yeah, there's
color.
so many close-ups. I think there's close-ups of
Um,
the one I forget which one is the writer and which one's the professor. But the guy who puts the crown of thorns on later. But he's like they're on that like mine car or whatever on that track and it's just held on his face looking around and we're not really seeing the outside world. It's just focused on them and like their journey more than like the scenery, which I thought was really interesting. It was a little claustrophobic, but it was really really beautifully shot.
Yeah, I agree. I love so much of the cinematography in this. I wanted to talk about the dynamic camera movements that it does versus the first movie. All of the long pushes and the symmetrical things, or like the things that are like intentionally asymmetrical in a frame,
Yeah.
but that become symmetrical once the characters move within it. Like I love that stuff. Um, I very much liked all of the slow like push like the opening bed thing where it pushes from the wife to over to him and the bird's eye was really cool. um but everything just is shot just fits like this whole tone so much better than I thought with Solaris. Like everything was like if Solaris was like a blueprint, kind of like good times to uncut gems, if that makes sense. Like this was just everybody's firing on all cylinders creating this, and it shows. Like, 'cause while we feel like realistically, I feel like they're only own, but the way they shoot it, even though it both feels like they went nowhere, but also everywhere at the same time. And I think that that is a really they did that very well because it's such a fine line to balance one or the other.
Yeah,
Um,
it is like dead. How you don't really have a feel for how far that they've went. Like it could have been
yeah,
miles, or it could have been just down the road. Um,
but also it's stressed in there. Like, yeah, it's someone's like, oh, the where we need to go is right there. It's a stone's throw away. And the guy and the stalker's like, here nothing's a throwaway or whatever.
yeah, it's like
Then talking
a
about, like,
straight line. It's not the best way to go. Or
yeah, and so it ends up being like so you this whole time I'm thinking in my head like, "Oh, man, really only go, like, maybe let's say, like, a mile or a lap." But, it this zigzag around it makes it feel like they, like, have gone super far, but because everything looks the same, it also feels like they've gone nowhere, almost like you're lost in the desert, which is really cool.
yeah, and he only had one. He had one film between Solaris and Stalker called Mirror. I've heard that good things. Now that I've looked more into Tarkovsky, I've heard good things about like almost all of his films.
Mm,
Um, but yeah. Yeah, this movie is just it's beautifully shot. This yeah, it's just great from a cinematography perspective. And I think that is it makes you think deeper. It's more abstract. It's much more abstract. Um, and just like when it goes off kind of off the rails, like there's just like phones ringing and people are having conversations, and like how is there a phone line working out here in in the fucking room?
mm,
And we got bombs and the crown of thorns, and like it just gets very over the top all of a sudden, and like it always kind of was. It kind of feels like a myth, like a
mm.
mythological journey. If does that make sense? Like it's not
Yeah,
really, if you think too much about the specifics of it, it's silly, but in a broad sense, it has a ton of meaning and is really impactful. Like allegorical. And I think that is what makes this special. If you're like trying to like find, this is not a gritty, crunchy, realistic sci-fi film. It is like it is purposefully, abstracted, and more about what these things mean. What do these visual aspects represent, etc. But yeah, I really appreciated Solaris, but I really fucking just loved Stalker.
that's how I feel.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Is there anything in particular that else you want to touch on with Stalker? I feel like we didn't talk about it quite as much as Solaris, but yeah, go
A
ahead.
couple things. Yeah, a couple things I wanted to touch on that we missed was one is after the his wife's monologue at the bar when they get back from the zone, and then
Yeah,
when once they leave the bar, it's all in color again, almost like after the entire ordeal and after
yeah,
her thing, the stalker is like seeing the beauty in his regular life world, like he doesn't need
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff, which I liked. Which a little, you could take it as a little bit of not sappy, but like a little feel goody, but then it just kind of gets thrown on its head when you get home, and then there's just telepathy all of a sudden, uh, which is like a weird, not as like the twist in, not to say that this doesn't make complete sense, but but the twist in Solaris makes a lot more sense. And this just kind of hits you, and it's like, is that his? Did he go in the room? Is that his divine miracle? Uh, but I guess that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess you're supposed to just think like, I mean, and like I guess it's even like there's a train rolling by when that cup was moving, and like it's supposed to
Mhm.
be like up in the air of what it really meant. Like, what did she do it with her mind, or did it just
Yeah.
move, or from the vibrations or whatever? Yeah, I didn't think much about the ending other than like he has a family and a daughter to take care of. There's the like the monologue from his wife where she's like looking at the screen and she's talking
Mm,
about him and how he feels and whatever. It's definitely like he's like finds the value in his like in his life
mm.
and instead of like obsessing over the zone and having his desires fulfilled or what have you, but to being too afraid to step into the room itself. um and but yeah, it's a super cool movie. It's long, but it's not, I don't think in a way that is oppressive, like some of the other movies that we've watched. um
Yeah. Did you find any, did you get lost at all in in this movie? It happened to me once where I kind of like had to reset for a second.
I feel I was
Uh,
like worried that I may have missed things, like getting pulled away or something, and then I like wasn't sure if I missed something or not. But then it was just like another chunk of the journey. But no, I don't think, because I think in the broad sense, the only thing that I was like losing track of was like the details about Porcupine and the brother and that sort of thing. But that was really it for me.
so I got lost when they stopped to like take a rest halfway through the film, and they like, I'm guessing they're sleeping. And then it just kind of gets weird for a bit with the stalker. He's supposed to be sleeping, but he's awake. And then it cuts back between the gold and the color, and just like fish eating with oil, and then back to the
Yeah.
gold with the dog. And then the dog is actually really there for real life, and stays with them at the end somehow.
Yeah, it
It
was like
was
some zone shit, weird zone
Yeah,
shit.
like I got real lost in that trying to follow what was going on. But I essentially took it as he was dreaming, but in the end, because the dog doesn't go with them to the room or anything, he just kind of appears, and then he shows up again at the end that they brought him home with. And it's
Yeah, that is bizarre. I honestly forgot about that. Yeah, that's strange. And I think it's just zone shit. Weird
yeah,
zone
because and then
shit.
his daughter starts whispering, from the book she's reading at the end, during that little like daydream sequence thing, she like starts whispering about like black angels and shit, and
Hmm.
it's just like, what is happening right now? Because it just like took a weird, like super deep dive into whatever, and I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh,
Um
but yeah, that was the only thing I struggled with in this one.
yeah. Yeah. Well, now you got me curious. What did you give Soccer?
4.5. I really liked it.
Wowzers. I
I just
am.
liked it that much more than
Well, you could have just bumped them both up a half a point. Um
I truly feel like soccer is like a one whole point ahead of Solaris for me.
yeah, but then you could have gave Stalker a 5.
Well,
Um
I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's really really good.
I think it's perfect cuz for what it's trying to do. Like I don't think
Mm,
I don't have any critique of it. And I think it accomplishes and just like you could talk this what this movie represents. It's like so big with how like minimal it is, and I think that's some of my favorite art is like that. And
mm.
yeah, this is a big old fiver for me.
Wow,
Um, yeah, and I don't
that's
know if we
rad.
mentioned Tarkovsky died relatively young. He died in 1986 in the age of 54.
Wow, what did he die from?
I have it here. Um, I don't know. Cancer.
Mm.
But yeah, that's Tarkovsky. Now you know him. So we are gonna be back next time. We're gonna be doing the Daniels Do you know about the
Daniels.
Do you know about the Daniels?
Yeah, I've seen both of the movies already.
I just wasn't sure if you knew that they went by the Daniels.
They go by they go by just.
Your mic just got all wild. Now you're silent.
It says I'm talking on
All
mine.
right, you just started talking again. But all right, so the
But
Daniels, and we're
there's
gonna.
no the.
Oh, they're
It's
just
just
collectively known as Daniels. Oh my God, you're
Yes,
right.
I thought that as well. It's just Daniels.
All right, well, Daniels, and I've seen Swiss Army Man, and I'm glad to hear that they are back 6 years later with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was worried. Oh yeah, Daniel Schneider did The Death of Dick Long, which I have not seen, but I wanted to. And that was on my A24 list, which I never finished. I only had like 10 movies left, and now there's like been 10 new A24 movies. I should just fucking hunker down and finish that shit. But yeah, I've seen Swiss Army Man. We're gonna do that and Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then the episode after that,
so good.
we're gonna do the Eggers trilogy of
I'm excited for that too.
The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman.
The Northman, the trilogy.
I'm gonna say the trilogy. But all right. This was a good one. It was really cool to mark this one off the list, and we'll see you next week.
Agreed.
Make sure that you follow us on all the things. Best Boys Film Pod, and I'm at Slob Thomas. He's at Kory with a story with a K, and we'll be back next time. Tell him, Kory. Tell him how it is.
You need to see Everything Everywhere All at Once if you love movies.
Everything, everywhere, all of the time. Every time someone says the title, that's what I think of.
The